Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into that incredible feeling you get, when you arrive at the beach, that instant sense of calm.
We all know it, don't we? What's the actual science? Why does it happen?
Exactly. We've gathered some fascinating stuff for this, looking at, everything from old school ideas about sea therapy,
Right, going way back.
all the way to the very latest research on how our environment affects our minds. It's quite a journey.
And our goal today is really to unpack why these coastal places have such a powerful sort of therapeutic effect on our minds and bodies.
We want to give you some clear takeaways, the why behind that beach bliss,
But without getting too bogged down in overly complicated science. Just the key stuff.
It's amazing looking back, though. Our sources show that way back in the 18th century, doctors in Europe were actually prescribing beach time.
Seriously, as a treatment.
Yeah, they called it sea therapy. Used it for all sorts of things. Imagine being told to, bathe in salty seawater, maybe even drink it, and just fall asleep to the sound of the waves.
Well, maybe not the drinking part today, but that early idea, that recognition of the coast's healing power, that's pretty significant.
It really is. It suggests people have sensed this for a long, long time, even without the scientific proof.
Exactly. And then jumping forward, there was a really important early clue. I think it was a 1984 study.
That's the one. They found hospital patients, the ones with views of nature.
They recovered better, right? Yeah. Had a more positive experience than those just staring at a wall.
Yeah. So even just looking at nature hinted at this powerful connection. It really set the stage for digging deeper into places like the coast.
It was a crucial piece. And, for a long time, research focused mostly on green spaces, parks, forests.
Right, the usual suspects.
But more recently, there's been this really exciting shift towards studying blue spaces. So lakes, rivers, and definitely the ocean.
And a key figure here is Matt White. He's an environmental psychologist, but also, interestingly, a surfer and swimmer himself.
Ah, so he has a personal connection too.
Yeah. Seems like it. And his 2010 study was a real turning point. He and his team found that people consistently rated natural places and even cities as more appealing, more restorative when they included water.
That 2010 paper really made waves, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It helped kickstart so much of this blue space research.
Absolutely. So let's really get into it now. What is it about the beach that actually triggers these positive changes?
Okay, let's start with stress reduction. That feeling you mentioned, arriving at the beach and just letting go.
Yeah, that immediate exhale.
Our sources talk about something called attention restoration. It's like you switch off that focused analytical part of your brain.
The part that's always worrying or planning.
Exactly. And you shift into a more passive, observant mode, just taking it all in, giving your directed attention a rest.
And White's earlier work, looking at data from thousands of people in England, actually found the coast rated slightly higher than forests or mountains for those restorative feelings.
That's interesting. Slightly higher. Why do you think that is?
Well, Catherine Kelly, who wrote a book on our water connection, she has a theory. She thinks it's partly about the sheer scale of beaches.
Scale. How so?
The immersive sound of the waves, those huge open views.
Ah, the vastness.
Right. She connects that scale to what holds our attention. Like the horizon, it just naturally draws your eye, doesn't it?
It does. You just sort of gaze out.
And that can create this sense of awe, feeling connected to something way bigger than yourself, which in turn can help put your own worries into perspective.
That makes sense. And awe itself, that emotion, we know it's powerful.
How so?
Research shows it can lower stress, boost feelings of purpose, even make us more selfless. Like the ocean's vastness shrinks our own problems a bit.
Wow. Okay. So the scale leads to awe, and awe reduces stress.
And that fits really neatly with attention restoration theory. The idea is that the best restorative places are softly fascinating.
Softly fascinating.
Yeah, interesting enough to hold your attention gently, but not demanding. Allows your mind to wander and recover.
And ocean waves are perfect for that, aren't they? Always changing, but in a predictable, rhythmic way.
Exactly. Dynamic yet predictable. And then there's the perspective from Eski Britton, the marine social ecologist and surfer.
Oh, yeah. What's your take?
She talks about how waves actually demand your presence and focus. If you're in the water, you have to be in the moment.
Right. You can't be worrying about emails when a wave's coming.
Precisely. That intense focus can kind of short-circuit those loops of worry.
And is there anything biological going on?
Potentially. Our sources mention looking at fractal patterns in waves.
Fractals, like repeating patterns.
Yeah, those self-similar shapes you see. Smaller ripples mirroring bigger waves. Some evidence suggests looking at them might promote alpha brainwaves.
The ones linked to relaxation.
That's the idea. So multiple layers contributing to that calm feeling.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about the physical side? Because you go to the beach, you tend to move more, right?
Absolutely. Walking, swimming, just playing around. Coastal landscapes seem to naturally encourage activity.
It's like a natural gym, but nicer.
People even call them blue gyms. And a 2020 study found something interesting. While people might do more intense exercise in green spaces, they tend to exercise for longer in blue gyms.
Longer? Why would that be?
One theory is this idea of perceived time expansion. Being by the water might actually make us feel like time is stretching out a bit.
That's a wild idea. Time feels slower by the sea.
Maybe. It's just a hypothesis, but it could explain why people stick with the activity longer.
And that longer activity, plus the stress reduction, that must be good for sleep.
Definitely. A big 2024 analysis looking at data across 18 countries found a clear link. More frequent visits to blue and green spaces meant less insufficient sleep.
So it helps mentally, encourages longer, gentler exercise, and improves sleep. That's quite a package.
It really shows how interconnected it all is. Now, what about pain? That's something historically linked to sea therapy.
Right, they used it for pain relief back in the day, but proving it scientifically now, that's tricky.
Yeah, the sources point out the challenge. How do you do a proper controlled trial outdoors? Matt White mentioned, you can't really hide the ocean from someone at the beach.
Ah, good point. You can't do a blind study easily.
Exactly. So researchers got creative. They started using virtual reality.
VR, like in that 2017 study in the dentist's office.
That's the one. Really clever setup. They had anxious dental patients experience VR coastal walks during treatment. Sabine Paul was involved in that research too.
And did it work?
Significantly. The coastal VR group reported less pain compared to those who did a virtual city walk or had no VR.
Wow. So even a virtual beach helps with pain.
Seems so. And the research got even more detailed just this year, March 2025, a study using fMRI brain scans.
Okay, looking inside the brain now.
Right. They showed people virtual nature scenes, like a lake vista, while giving them small, controlled electric shocks. Don't worry, they were mild.
Okay, and what did they see in the brain?
They found that viewing the natural scene correlated with people reporting less pain and with changes in brain activity in the areas that process pain signals.
So it's not just psychological. There's a neurological basis for nature scenes reducing pain perception.
Exactly. It provides a deeper understanding of why it might work.
Okay, that's fascinating. Now, most of us don't go to the beach alone, right? We go with family, friends.
That's a great point, which raises the question, do blue spaces actually help us bond?
Does the research say anything about that?
It does. There's a 2013 paper, Sabine Paul was involved again, where they talked to parents about beach visits with their young kids.
Yeah.
The parents described feeling more socially bonded, more connected as a family during those trips. Paul apparently loves that study.
I can see why. Just getting families out of the house, giving them space to play.
Exactly. That shared activity, the open space, it seems to really foster connection. And it's not just families. Other studies suggest blue spaces can build social cohesion even among strangers.
Why do you think that happens?
Well, it could be creating shared positive memories in these beautiful places. Or maybe it taps into nostalgia, like returning to childhood playfulness and openness.
That feeling of carefree fun you associate with the beach as a kid.
Something like that, yeah.
So we've covered stress, focus, activity, pain, social bonds. What about the longer-term picture? A day at the beach is great, but it's not a magic cure, right?
No, definitely not a cure-all. But the sources suggest these visits can have small, sustained benefits that add up over time.
Well, accumulate, yeah.
And there's ongoing research looking at how childhood beach visits might foster a deeper sense of nature connectedness later in life.
And that connection is linked to being more environmentally friendly.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
More pro-environmental attitudes and behaviors.
And I saw Matt White and Sabine Paul are working on a big 4-year project now.
That's right. It sounds incredibly important. They're looking at how both green and blue spaces help us build resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah.
Mean
how these environments help us prepare for, cope with, and then recover from stressful life events. Building that capacity to bounce back.
Wow. That has huge implication.
For public health, for community planning, absolutely. The more solid evidence we get, the stronger the case for protecting these coastal landscapes and making sure people can access them.
Which connects to Catherine Kelly's point about reciprocity, doesn't it?
Exactly. If these places give us so much well-being, We have a kind of responsibility to protect them in return. Keep them healthy for everyone, now and in the future.
Okay, so let's try and sum up this deep dive. We've seen there's real science behind that beach feeling.
Definitely. It's multifaceted.
Hmm.
Easing stress, restoring focus,
Encouraging physical activity, maybe even helping manage pain.
and fostering those important social connections.
The evidence really supports what we've probably all felt intuitively. Being by the water is good for us.
And it's way more than just a vague feeling. There's a solid scientific basis emerging. It's not just anecdotal anymore.
And these effects can build up over time, impacting our overall well-being and maybe even how we relate to the planet.
Absolutely. It's a powerful connection.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. Knowing all this, how could you maybe intentionally weave a bit more blue time into your life to actively tap into these benefits?
And building on that, what's our collective role? What responsibility do we have to ensure these incredible beneficial coastal spaces stay healthy and accessible for everyone?